All right, we're live. So just so we don't do this whole interview and figure ourselves out. I think we're here. I see myself. So we're great. Okay, cool. All right, everyone. Hey, it's Shayla Boyd-Gill, your money freedom architect and the creator of the Family Freedom and Affluence movement. And can I just say I'm super excited because we have a special guest over here today, and she's here to make sure that you have exactly what you need as we are getting ready to embark on this GDPR situation. You know, it took me a minute, Jessica, just to figure out. I was like, what is this? You know, let me just tell the truth. Let me be transparent. I got the emails. I started seeing them through my email marketing provider. Then I started seeing it through some other systems that I use.
Right.
And I glazed over them. I was like, that can't possibly be for me. There's no reason why I need to pay attention to this. Right. It was like, and so on. So, all right, guys, let me introduce Jessica. Let me do the appropriate introduction first, because I know that I'm not the only one that's wondering what this thing is and if it applies to me. So the reason we have Jessica here is because she's a mastermind sister with me. We're in the same mastermind group. We really connect well in that group. And what she brings to this group is the power of her knowledge, her legal knowledge, her business knowledge. So she's an award-winning business and intellectual property lawyer who's been practicing law for 23 years. She advises entrepreneurs and business owners on how to protect their business from legal trouble, and particularly good at assisting clients in securing trademarks for their brands and offerings. She represents some of the most successful billionaire, not millionaire, billionaire entrepreneurs in the world, including being the head litigation and compliance for Paul Allen, who is the co-founder of Microsoft, as well as other types of businesses, including solo business owners and coaches. So we know who we're talking to right now, Jessica. Coaches, consultants, experts. Those are the people that are listening to us right now. And you all need to listen to Jessica. She knows what she's talking about. She's also an entrepreneur and coach herself. And her approach to law is more from the perspective than from the perspective of a typical lawyer. She is a teacher. She teaches the legal stuff all the time to entrepreneurs. And I've personally heard her speak and have many of the legal topics. And just so I can navigate this a little bit more, Jessica, you know, I love that we have this formal bio, but just for you all to know, I don't bring anyone to the community who I don't trust. And if I've brought Jessica here, it's because I trust that she knows what she's talking about and she's going to get us straight. Just a simple sit down conversation on a sofa with her made our mouths drop. We're like, oh, we need to listen. She may know what she's talking about. And what I love about you, Jessica, is you can bring the conversation to us in enough layman's terms that we're not lost. We're not like, huh? Say what? What are you talking about? Because, you know, this isn't my zone of genius. I tell my clients all the time, this is not what I do. Right. So when it comes to a subject that I'm not familiar with, I have to get someone else on board that can give us the deets. So why don't you tell us what is this GDPR? You know, just can you break it down so we can understand? Because I'm still in a place of why does it apply to me?
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for the amazing intro. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I feel like I got it back going on here for a second. I think I've got.
All right. You have earbuds or headphones? Let me see.
No, I think we're good.
Let me see what we can do about that, because I may be able to put on some earbuds here.
Oh, maybe.
And just let me know if you can hear me.
Okay.
All right, hold on. All right, can you say something?
Hello.
All right. You can hear me just fine?
I can hear you great.
Perfect. All right, go ahead.
So first of all, I just want to thank you so much for having me here and for putting your faith in me. And the feeling is very mutual. You're amazing, and I'm so lucky to have such an incredible person in my mastermind. So let's break it down. Let's talk about the GDPR, because I totally get that this is something that people probably don't even know anything about, and until this moment may not have understood that it applied to them.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, in all transparency, I will tell you, I'm a lawyer, and I really kind of ignored this until...
That's me. Sorry. Checking to make sure I'm live.
That's okay. But I really put this off myself. And lawyers tend to, we can tend to do that because, we know how to do it. And so we don't have to do it well in advance. But when I sat down and really started looking at it, I was like, oh, this is a lot bigger deal than I thought. And I have been remiss in not talking to my community about this. Like, I should have been talking about this for the past 2 months.
So did you initially think, oh, this isn't going to impact everyone. This isn't really for us. We can, we can just say, oh, it's for the European people or people that have just this thing. What was your initial thought? Did you think this isn't that serious?
Yeah, I did. I thought that I knew that there was something that I would need to do, but I figured it would be pretty simple. And so I didn't really give it a lot of thought. Now I've got a friend who's in the EU who has spent months on this. She actually has been, getting information out to the people in Europe on this for months. And I was watching her with fascination because I was like, wow, she is really into this. Like, there's a lot of detail. But I just hadn't had time to really dig into it. And
right.
It is a much bigger deal for people in Europe. There's no question, because it affects literally their entire business. And that is not the case for us, sort of. And I'll talk about why in a minute. But yeah, I really didn't think that it was that big a deal. But when I started digging into it, I realized that, oh my God, like, I got to get the word out. This is a really big deal.
Yeah.
And we need to know. And yes, even small business owners and coaches and other experts and consultants need to know this because it will impact them for sure.
Well, here was my thought, Jessica. The people that I talk to, for example, my clients, they're experts, they're coaches, consultants, authors, and they want to be global leaders.
Exactly.
They want to be on a global level. Right. So even if today you may not have these people on your list, if you're expecting to build a global brand, this is a conversation that's going to support you.
That's
so
right.
I was like, I need to get my shit together.
Exactly. Me too. Yeah. No, I mean, that's exactly the way to look at it. And the world is changing, and really we are, the way it's evolved is really in reaction to what's happened in the last couple of years with data. Yeah. You look at what happened with Cambridge Analytics and Facebook, and, there's speculation that the misuse and the misgathering, sort of the stealing of data, scraping of data from Facebook and Facebook apps that sort of overreached and took information we didn't even know they were taking about us and our friends and family. Mm-hmm. And the allegations that Cambridge Analytics may have assisted in influencing the Brexit vote and also the US election. I think people, and just the fact that even ads were manipulating people during the election cycle here in the US on Facebook, and even the news stories, because it's a massive problem. And so people are really sensitive to this. And this is just the start. I mean, the EU is ahead of the curve as per usual, because but I'm sure the US will be following suit, and other countries as well. So this is just it's going to be the way it is. So you're just going to need to embrace this. And the sooner you embrace it, the better. And if you plan to expand globally, even if you haven't yet, having this in place is going to ensure that you build that trust factor with the people that you're trying to develop your business with. If you don't have this in place, it will deter people from doing business with you. So it's really a no-brainer.
That's a good point. I mean, and just to stand on that piece for a minute, where you said it will deter people from doing business with you. Yeah. People are now looking for, we've always been in a place of the know, like, and trust, but because people have felt betrayed by their information being out there, and we may even feel betrayed sometimes. Imagine all the times you get notifications from some service that you've used that, oh, there's been a data breach.
Yeah.
Oh, there's been this issue. So now people are like, we want to be in the know. And I had that same thought that, if Europe is doing this, guaranteed other countries are going to jump on board. So why not get ahead of the curve now, instead of every time trying to figure out one little piece? Why not get all your ducks in a row? Exactly. So that you're completely compliant, and people get to say what it is they want to see from you. So this is a good transition into exactly which activities are we regulating with the GDPR. What does that mean? So we know someone has to do it, but what are we exactly regulating with this?
Okay, so the GDPR, it stands for the General Data Protection Regulation in the EU. And what it regulates is the collection and the use or processing of personal data of EU citizens.
Okay.
And so the two sort of categories of entities or people that are governed by the regulation are controllers of data and processors of data, which sounds really legalistic and sort of,
it does.
How could that apply?
So break that down for me. What do you mean by controllers and processors?
Well, what really matters for our purposes is processors, because I guarantee you everyone listening falls into that category. And here's why. They define processing under the regulation as the collection, use of storage, and use of personal data. So for example, collection would be having an opt-in box on your website and somebody gives you their name and email address because they want your lead magnet or they want to subscribe to your email list. Storage is when they've given you their email address and now you are keeping it in your email database on Infusionsoft or Entreport or MailChimp, okay? And using it is when you send them an email.
Okay.
So you're a processor. We're all processors. It's like obnoxiously formalistic and corporate sounding word.
Right.
But that is what we are. And so everyone listening, I guarantee you, is a processor under the statute. Now, the question is, are you processing in those categories data of EU citizens? And so that is something you're going to need to get to the bottom of very quickly this week, today, like as soon as possible.
Like yesterday, yep.
It should have happened a month ago for all of us, but that's water under the bridge now. So, but you need to find out first and foremost if you have EU citizens on your email list. Because if you do, there's some steps that you have to take in order to be able to continue to keep them on your list after Friday, really starting on Friday. Because this Friday, the 25th, is the deadline to be compliant. I promise it's not overwhelming though, and I'm going to explain it. And I have created a solution because honestly, I felt bad that I hadn't addressed this for the people in my community. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to come up with something that's easy for them to fix this problem very quickly. And so I do have a solution for people that we're going to talk about a little bit later. That's just going to make it easy. So you don't have to worry. I don't want anybody to panic, but I think it's important for you to understand why this applies to you. So you've got two issues. You've got the collection of the data and how you're collecting the data. And so why you may be collecting data from EU citizens is twofold. One is they may be opting into your email list from one or various sources. Because if you're not geo-blocking your website and preventing people from parts of the world, which I don't even know if you can do that, then there's always a chance that someone from the EU could opt in and show up on your website. So there's the opt-in form, but then there's just the act of visiting your website because that everybody's websites use cookies.
Yes.
And if you're doing Facebook advertising or you're using Facebook pixels or retargeted marketing campaigns, those all harvest personally identifying data of each individual in order to do their job, right? Because you got to be able to track their activity. So part of what the Data Protection Act is covering is the monitoring of online activities of EU citizens. And so that is part of the definition of processing.
So we're not even, my thought was it's just the email marketing per se, just collecting the leads. But what you're saying, Jessica, is even people visiting the sites, I call it trolling, but if we're following them, if we're using cookies, if we have our pixels there and we're actually gathering their information from following them around on the internet, we need to be mindful of what we have posted on our website too, and what our promise is on the website.
Exactly, which takes me to how the process. We've got those issues that are standing this week. Like you probably have existing people on your list, and then there are probably people from the EU that have visited your site and you don't even know that they're there because that kind of data harvesting through cookies is automatic and you don't necessarily see that data.
Right.
You don't even know what data you're storing, what data you collected and what data you stored, right? But then we've got to talk about going forward. The process of collecting data going forward has to be compliant with the GDPR. And the GDPR has a heightened level of what's called consent. And so the old way of collecting information, which is, the standard opt-in box has the box with, you're going to collect their first name, their email address, maybe have a privacy statement on there.
Right.
Something like, we never sell your info to third parties. Some people do put a link to their privacy policy, which is great. You have to do that now. That's actually required going forward. And then sometimes there'll be a checkbox with a phrase that says, yes, sign me up or something. And it's usually checked by default, right? And so if you don't want it, you have to uncheck it before you click submit on the opt-in box. That old way of collecting consent is no longer valid under the GDPR because it doesn't rise to the heightened level of consent that's now going to be required.
Right.
So what that means is if you have people on your email list right now who are in the EU, as of Friday, you technically do not have consent anymore because that's invalid.
Yep, you haven't met the standard of what's required anymore.
And so on Friday, if you're found to be storing their information, you're still processing it, that means you're in violation of the regulation.
Lovely.
This is when I started going, oh crap, when I started researching this. Because I do have people from the EU on my email list for my coaching program. Actually, quite a few. We were just in London together weeks ago. And I had just this, this surge of UK-based women entrepreneurs sign up for my email list. And so it's a bummer because, there's things that I have to be doing this week to get them to basically recommit their consent to being on my list. And if they don't do it, I can't contact them anymore.
That's funny because I've seen this happening. Some of my providers have been sending me emails saying, confirm that you want to receive information from us or select the kind of things you want to receive. And I'm like, what? Yeah. Really? And so it's a real situation now where we have to handle.
Yeah. Especially if you've got a lot of people from the EU on your email list, which some people listening may. So, anyway, so this solution that I came up with, it's a compliance packet. We'll walk you through how to manage that, how to handle it effectively. But you basically have got to get these people to re-consent in the heightened way. And so that's one of the other things that I go through in the compliance packet is how to set up your opt-in box so that it is compliant with the GDPR. But basically, one of the big things is that checkbox that you usually have checked by default, you can't do that anymore. And anybody opting in has to take affirmative action in order to opt in now. So you can't just force them to do it. And so you have to uncheck that box. And if they don't check the box, even if they sign up for a freebie from you or a lead magnet, you can't add them to your general email list if they haven't consented to that. And so that's the other thing is the languaging in your opt-in box has to be broad enough to make it clear that you are going to add them to your general marketing email list.
Right.
If you don't do that, the only thing you can do is send them the freebie and then you can never use their email again.
I mean, but think about this. How many of us, I know I'm guilty. I've done it. People have opted in and then you move them over to your general email list after they finish a funnel. So you're saying we have to do this thing a little differently. But I want to piggyback. I heard you say, you have something. You've already put something together to be able to support us. And this is what I know for sure because I'm a real transparent person. You can go to Google. You can Google how to do this. I tried it.
Good luck.
Google, they sent me to a link. They were like, here's a checklist. I was like, what the hell? What am I supposed to do with this? And so the information is out there. But here's what's the challenge right now. It's so much information. And there are so many steps that you may see that you have to find the resources for each step. Exactly. So this is why we brought Jessica here because Jessica's gone through the steps for us. She's gone through and figured out what the process is, how you need to get these things put together. And we're going to talk a little bit more about exactly what you have in your package, but I just want people to hear what's the risk of not being in compliance? What really happens if you choose to ignore it and say, it's not about me? What can happen?
Yeah. Okay. So it's twofold and it's pretty daunting when you think about it. Okay. There's monetary fines that are a possibility under the regulation. And yes, the governing body in Europe, the ICO, can fine US-based business owners. Okay, so get out of your mind right now. You're subjecting yourself to global jurisdiction by operating the business the way you are and having a website the way you do. And so there's no way around it. You're going to be facing these fines if you're in violation. But the fines are massive. So they are up to 20 million euros or 4% of your net revenue for the previous fiscal year.
Wow.
Per violation. Okay, so let me tell you what that
means. Did you just say per violation?
A violation under the regulation is actually similar to what a violation is under the Can-Spam Act here in the U.S., which prevents you from spamming people with email. A per violation fine is per email. So if you have a massive email list and you send a bunch of unauthorized emails to people, first of all, you're going to face the Can-Spam problem, because that's $10,000 per email fine. But under the GDPR, you could have 4% of your revenue from last year, or up to 21 million euros. Now, obviously, if you're not a multinational company like Amazon or Facebook, you're likely not going to get hit with a fine that big. But 4% of your yearly revenue, if you're successful, if you make 6 figures or 7 figures in your business, that's not nothing. Like that's a very painful fine. Yeah. And it's per violation, so it can add up very quickly. And the problem is, like, I don't want people to panic, because it's not like there's a roving gang of GDPR policemen who on Friday are going to be basically trolling the planet looking for people to fine. They're not going to come raid my office in San Diego and shut me down. But what could happen is that somebody who is in the EU, who's on my email list, if I email them after Friday when I didn't get their consent to do it, report me to the ICO out of frustration, which happens all the time. And I will tell you that the EU citizens are well aware of this law, because this has been like all in the news. Everyone understands it. Businesses, like, what they have to do to comply is much more significant than what we have to do. Right. So they've all been working on this for months, or for years, for some of the bigger companies.
They have. So if someone's having a bad day on your list, and they decide they want to call it spam, or they want to say, I didn't consent to this, and you don't have your ducks in a row, you haven't had them check off to say, yes, I want this from you.
That's right.
That could start a problem.
Yeah, because the ICO could then decide to investigate you, especially if you get more than one complaint. And so it's really, that's, to me, the bigger problem. And it also goes back to what we talked about before. This is a good thing. Like, the whole point behind this regulation is to increase people's control over how their data, their personal data, is used. Yeah. And it's about increased transparency, just so people know. Like, I just want to know what you're collecting of mine and how you're going to be using it. And I want the ability to tell you to stop and to delete all of my personal info if I want you to. And so that's all good. Those are good things. And by complying with this regulation voluntarily, you're just going to be increasing that trust factor, and you're going to be increasing the value of your brand. If you choose not to do it, you're going to be hurting your reputation. So
look, here's the deal. And you should be okay with deleting people. If they don't want to be a part of it, let them go. You're paying for it anyway. Let them go. Because if they're not for you, don't force it. You can't force what's not for you. So
that's right.
That's not a problem at all. So tell me, because you keep hinting and teasing us and letting us know that you've done the work, and I know you've done the work, but I want you to be able to share with everyone, what is it that you've put together to support us during this transition so that we can make this a much easier and more comfortable experience?
So I have basically, what you have to do, like I said, is you have to deal with the existing list that you have, and then you have to deal with how you gain consent and manage data going forward. So my compliance packet deals with both. So as far as existing clients or people on your list, I've created templates of emails to send them, and just to sort of get your creative juices flowing, because honestly, this is like a sales and marketing job that you're going to have to engage in to convince people about why they should want to be a part of your general email list. But you've got to notify them now. You've got to try to get them to opt back in before Friday. And so, so I've got some guidance on that in the packet. And then, but honestly, the bigger issue for me going forward is how you collect information and how you handle it. So one of the most important things is you need a GDPR compliant privacy policy on your website now. And do not, you don't know, when you go out there and start copying and pasting other people's privacy policies, you have no idea if they're accurate, if they're well drafted. You don't know where that person got them. And so this GDPR privacy policy is, I guarantee you, it's what you need. It's got all bases covered. It deals with cookies. It deals with how you collect information. There's some parts of it you need to customize, but I've created a detailed audio to instruct you as we go through it together on what blanks to fill out, what goes there, what types of information to include, so that this privacy policy is as complete as it can be and is in compliance with the GDPR.
So that right there is a lifesaver, because you're right. There are lots of templates out there. There are ones that people may copy just to say they have one up there. But what you're saying is this one is compliant. This one is, you can tweak it as you need to tweak it, but it's covering all the bases. It's current, and it's something you can use over and over again to be able to meet what's required this week. And you don't have to go out to a lawyer this week and try to customize it with them, because you have a lawyer telling you right now exactly what to do.
You pay out probably hundreds or thousands of dollars to get somebody to do that. And honestly, most lawyers right now, if you went to talk to them, would overcomplicate the issue.
Absolutely.
They would take one look at that regulation and they would completely overcomplicate it. You'd end up spending way too much time and money messing around with it. I think that's the difference, is I'm an entrepreneur, so I want to just cut to the chase and make this easy for people. So yes, I have been through the regulation and I have used their guidelines on what the privacy policy needs to look like and what it needs to include. So I feel very comfortable that it will be what people need going forward. But one of the benefits of this packet, this compliance packet, is that I've created a private Facebook group. So anybody who buys the packet will also be given the opportunity to join the Facebook group, because the regulation is being revised, it's changing over time, and as it's enforced, we're going to have more and more information about, the interpretation of the different provisions. And so as those things happen, I will be using that Facebook group to keep people up to date on changes, on tweaks they need to make. If there needs to be revisions, we'll talk about all of that in there. It's also a place people can ask questions and get the support they need. And so, that's one of the things that's included in the packet. The other thing is I explain to you in detail what consent has to look like, because there's under the regulation, there are basically 6 legal grounds for being a processor of information for people, citizens of the EU. And if you don't have one of those legal bases, you can't be processing information. Really, only 2 apply.
Okay.
And one is consent and one is contract. And consent is the one we're talking about the most today, because that is really the one that's going to give you the most flexibility as far as how you use somebody's data. Contract really has to do with the fact that if somebody's hired you under a contract, there's a reasonable expectation that you would be communicating with them and using their data to execute your job under the contract. So as a lawyer, I should be able to communicate with them via email, for example, to deliver my legal services or to reach out to them, to talk to them about their matter. And so I'm not violating the regulation by doing that, because it's relating to the scope of the contract, the engagement agreement. But the problem with contract is that it doesn't give you the ability to add someone to your general email list.
Okay, so they may be your client and you may have a contract with them, but that's not consent.
That is not consent. You cannot add your clients to your general email list.
Okay.
So in the packet, I talk you through the different grounds that you can use to justify why you are putting someone on your list. Part of this is, if you ever get challenged, you want to have documentation that you thought it through and that you came up with what you thought was a reasonable legal basis, and that you documented that. And so, because if somebody comes after you, if the ICO comes after you, and it looks like you made a good faith effort, the likelihood of being fined in a big way is very slim.
Right.
So at least you will have gone through the process. So the packet will give you what you need to analyze whether or not you have consent. It gives you the information on how to set your opt-in boxes up in a way that will get the kind of consent that you need, as far as we know right now under the GDPR. If that changes, that will be where the Facebook group is where you're going to find that information from me as things evolve over time.
So you'll be providing updates. So it's not a case of we have it and this is it. But if things do shift, as you've said, there'll be a way.
Yeah, because the expectation is going forward that you as a business owner actually keep the security of the data front of mind, and whether or not you still have consent front of mind, so that it's an ongoing process. You can't just set it and forget it anymore.
Yeah.
So, and there is an understanding now that under the GDPR, consent can expire. So it's only going to last for a reasonable amount of time.
Get out of here, Jessica.
There are times that you're going to have to re-up again, like you have to do this week. And so, like I said, my packet's got, springboard email sort of canned language that you can use to sort of start that process, and some ideas about how to do that in a creative way.
Yeah.
Because this is not the only time you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to do it again in the future, probably.
Okay. That's good to know. I mean, because even our email marketing providers, they're sending us information and saying, they too have checklists for us, but they can't provide all of this information.
No.
They can give you some basic things that you need to do with their form,
right? But
they're not providing this back information that's needed. So you might think, oh, I'm safe, but you're just safe on their platform.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got multiple different platforms, and everybody, I'm seeing a lot of bad information out there, even from
that's
companies. I'm getting some emails right now about GDPR compliance. I'm like, ooh, that's not, like, that email is problematic that you just sent me. So you can't trust everything you're seeing either, because not everybody is getting good advice. And so
that's a good point, Jessica, because you'll have a lot of people that say, oh, it's this GDPR myth. Yeah. It doesn't apply to you. Don't be spooked into it, because they think that we're talking just to monetize the situation. But this is something that truly does impact your business.
It does. Yeah.
And there's no reason for you not to take action and make sure that your business that you've worked hard to create, to build, the list that you've worked hard to really garner, that it's safe. It's like, why would you not do what's necessary to protect what you've created?
Yeah, to me, it's crazy. It's actually, to me, if you're not willing to do it, that's a mindset issue. I feel like that's a form of self-sabotage.
Oh, that's another conversation. Yes, it is.
Right. Oh, yeah. And you got to ask yourself why. Like, if you're resistant to taking a small step and spending a small amount of money to protect yourself, you got to ask yourself why that is. That's a mindset problem. Like, real business people do what they have to do to protect their hard work and their assets. That's just the way it is. So that's what you need to do. Everybody needs to take care of it. So hopefully this compliance packet will give them what they need, and I'll be available in the Facebook group, for ongoing questions.
Perfect. So it's an easy purchase. It's an easy investment for people. You can quote the price for me here so I don't quote it wrong.
It's $150.
That's a no-brainer. It's like, if we can't invest $150 to make sure that our business is safe, you may not need to have a business right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's a no-brainer investment to ensure that you are protected in this transition. Yeah, there are going to be a lot of things that are offered, but we're bringing you the source of someone that we absolutely trust, and really simple, easy to implement package that you can get it done this week with what you've created. We can take it. We can get this done by the end of the week.
For sure.
No brainer.
If you start today.
If you start. Right. So, don't procrastinate. I told my email list, that was my thing. My whole reason I'm bringing you is because I procrastinated. I was like, it doesn't matter. I have time. We always promise ourselves, I have time. I just have to do this checklist. Then I looked at the checklist. I was like,
oh crap.
I need to hire a team for this thing right here, right? I'm so happy from the conversation we're having. You would look at it and think, I need to hire some people. I need to do something different. But what you're telling us is you can do it yourself.
You can do this.
You need to start now.
As a lawyer, I don't tend to like to say that.
Yeah.
In case you really can. I promise you can.
I mean, and we have the lawyers touch on it. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not you're just creating something random, but we have some legal things covered in here. The language is good and it's been researched. Yeah. It's not thrown together. This is something that is useful to you, your business, and it can help you long term. You'll have a community to be able to go to, and you can ask a question in a community and get updates. So no brainer.
And by the way, I forgot to mention that I'm also including, just because this is added value and I think that people probably need it, is a template for your terms of use and disclaimers on your website. So those aren't necessarily.
It's paying for itself. Okay, there you go. So no, those are in there too. And you should have that on your website anyway. And I probably have a template one. So we'll get this in order. So Jessica, I'm so glad we were able to come together and have this conversation. And you did make it a more comfortable conversation for me. I thank you for keeping it in terms that didn't make my head spin around in circles.
Welcome. For having me. I'm just like passionate right now. I'm like desperately trying to get the word out because I just am, you know, the statistics are saying right now that, or experts are saying that probably 60% of all businesses are not going to be compliant by Friday, which is terrible.
See what I mean? Isn't it crazy? Isn't it crazy?
People don't know. So I want to spread the word. So if anybody's watching this and they know people that need to know this information, please forward them this video.
Make sure you all share. And if you are watching the replay, you're not here live, share, purchase, jump on it, get in the group, jump in the group and say, Shayla sent me here, but get it now. Get it now. You all need it. And I'm going to let you go because I know you're busy. You're talking to more people. So
I gotta go.
You got a lot of conversations, but thank you again, Jessica. I really appreciate it. And
it's so great to talk to you.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.